Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to our registration night. This is the Athletic Activities Code meeting for our athletic and activities opportunities here at McFarland High School. My name is Paul Ackley. I'm the athletic director here at McFarland High School. I also am going to introduce quickly here our principal, Mr. Jeff Finstead. He will be talking to you shortly. After just a quick introduction as well, we have Jay Hansen, our athletic trainer, who's in the back, and he will be talking to you folks about a concussion study that we are involved in here at McFarland High School. So again, thank you for coming. I'm hoping to get through this information as quickly as possible. If you have questions, please make sure to ask. I will stick around afterwards for you to ask any questions. We also have Betty Calhagen out at the front by the food court. And she will stay till you get all of your forms turned in. Hopefully, when you leave this meeting, you'll have a better understanding of what needs to be taken care of and what has to be done in order for your student athlete to participate in a fall sport. So, without any further ado, our principal, Mr. Jeff Finstead.
Thank you. It's kind of hard to believe that seasons are starting already, so summer is almost over. So exciting time, so good to see you here. I've been in education for 28 years now, so I have some stories to tell. I want to share one with you. In a prior life, some of you may know this, I was a head hockey coach. I spent 10 years a coach in Rice Lake and 4 years in Ashland, and I did other things in Minnesota, so I have a coaching background. And I want to share a story that happened in the 2001-2002 hockey season. I was in Rice Lake at the time, and I had a good hockey team. I had 13 juniors, 6 seniors who were really good leaders, and some really good underclassmen coming up. So I knew we were going to be good. And so we had tryouts, and it was going to be tough to make this team. And I want to tell you about one of my players, Anders Gilbertson. Anders was a borderline player for us. I wasn't sure what to expect from him. We had tryouts. He had the best tryout he's ever had. He skated hard. He did what he was supposed to do. But when it came down to it, he didn't make varsity. We put him on JV. So I post the roster on the locker room door after tryouts, and I go home, and about an hour later, my phone rings. So any coaches, what do you think that phone call is? It's some parent upset that their son didn't make varsity. So I answer the phone, and that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I answer the phone, and it's Anders. Anders is on the phone. Anders says to me, he says, "Coach, you have to know I'm disappointed I didn't make varsity." And I said, "I understand that." He goes, "Is it okay if I come over to your house? We can talk about it." Absolutely. So about 15 minutes later, Anders is in my living room, and he says to me, "Coach, I shot pucks all summer long. I stick handled all summer long. I lifted weights. I was ready. And I know I played the best hockey I could for tryouts." And I said to him, "Anders, you're right. You did everything I asked you to do. But when it came down to it, I have 20 guys who are ahead of you right now." And I said to him, "Here's what can happen in your future. You're going to get a college degree. You're going to go to an interview. You're going to nail that interview. And you might not get the job. The character you're going to display is what do you do afterwards? So let's practice that this winter." So I said to him, "You're the 21st guy, man. We're one injury away. You're one suspension away, or one guy leaving the team away from being on varsity." So he said, "Okay, let's go." So he worked his tail off. Our practices, we would practice JV and varsity together, and he was there. He's pushing the guys in front of him, working his tail off. He was doing such a good job in practice that he made the guy in front of him better. So he could still crack the lineup because he made the guy in front of him better. But about halfway through the season, one of our players felt he wasn't getting enough playing time, so he quit. And so that night I called Anders and said, come to my office tomorrow morning, or tomorrow before practice. So Anders comes up in my office, and I give Anders the jersey. "You're on varsity." And he took that sweater and he put it right on. And he's beamed. He was so proud that he made varsity. He had to wear the blue and gold of Rice Lake, and he was fired up. And so, of course, he practiced even better. He came out, he was flying around the rink and doing what we're asking him to do. Now, anybody who knows about hockey, he's on our fourth line. Fourth line players don't play in a game. unless the game is essentially over, it's out of hand. So he's not getting ice time, not getting play time. We were pretty good that year, so we had quite a few games where we were ahead, and he'd get a shift or two. So he'd play a minute, maybe a minute and a half a game. But he persevered, kept working hard, kept doing his job. So we get to the playoffs, and we're playing Ashland, and we're up 8-0 after 2 periods. And Anders now on the fourth line. Fourth liners in hockey, when the game's really out of line, now we're going to play every other shift because my first 2 lines are not playing. My best players are sitting. Other guys are going to go crazy. They're going to get ice time. So we're skating, and we're playing 2 lines now, third and fourth line. And we're up 8-0, about 5 minutes to go in the game. Anders scores a goal. All 5'8" of him jumps up in the air, stick it as high in the air as it possibly can, almost hits the ceiling. I mean, this kid is on cloud 9. And as the guys go try to mob him because he scored a goal, he's not having anything to do with it. He turns and he sprints full speed to our bench. When he scored that goal, the 15 guys on our bench erupted like he scored a goal in overtime. They start yelling, it's Anders, and they're standing up and they're cheering, and Anders is making a beeline right to our bench. And he literally jumps the last 5 feet in the arms of our captain, and they're mobbing him like we just won the state championship. And I share that story with you because I could have talked about the 2001-2002 season and told you how awesome a season it was and how we got to a section final and came up a crossbar short from being superior. I could have shared that story. But it's more important to hear about Anders. Number one, I'm so proud of Anders because he contacted me. It wasn't mom and dad. He took it upon himself to ask me some questions. He called me, he came and talked to me. Very proud of him for that. Number two, when he got that jersey, I wish I could describe his face. He was so fired up and so proud, almost in tears. He made it, one of his dreams, he made it. And he took pride in that. When he wasn't playing much during games, it didn't bother him. He worked his tail off in practice, and he made our team better because he would never take a practice off. He knew that was his role. So proud of him for that. And then, when he scored that goal, his teammates knew how important he was. His teammates celebrated what he had done, and they were there for him because they appreciated what he had done. Now, what I didn't tell you is the captain of our team that year, his name is Josh Engel. Josh played for Wisconsin and was on the ice when they won the national championship and ended up playing for the Toronto Marlies, so he was one step away from the NHL. He knew how important Anders Gilbertson was to our hockey team, and he supported him. So, folks, players, be proud of what you do. Be proud to put the Navy and Columbia on. Be proud of your role. Mom and Dad, let them work through it. Let them take that leadership. Let them take the responsibility for their own ice time, court time, field time. They're going to get it. We're all here to have fun, have a great season. It's a great night to be a Spartan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Finstead. Great message, as always. We appreciate that. Jay Hansen, our athletic trainer, is coming down just to discuss with you a concussion survey, study. Thank you. Study that we're doing that we participated in. So if you could give him your attention. Folks that are standing, I would really appreciate you coming in and sitting down. Feel free. Don't worry. It's a fairly informal setting.
As you know, I'm Jay. I'm the athletic trainer here. I am going to let Nikki, one of our researchers, talk to you about the study that we are in.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nikki, and I'm a research associate with Dr. Tim McGuine, who's a researcher at UW Health, about a concussion study that McFarland is participating in. And some of you might have participated in this last year, and McFarland was one of our strongest participating schools, which we really appreciate. So if you did participate last year, you're going to have to fill this out again. We'd love you to participate again, and if you didn't, we'd still love you to participate. So these packets that you all got, there's 3 different parts. The first sheet, the white sheet, is just an info sheet about the study. And the study is studying how different high schools handle and report concussions, and then also how concussions impact young athletes like yourselves. So there's not a lot of research out there about how young people respond after a concussion, and so we really want to better understand what's happening to young athletes. The next sheet is going to be a pink consent sheet. So in order for Jay, your athletic trainer, to give us information about your concussions, we need your permission. So if you're under 18, we need a parent and a student signature on the back of this sheet. And then the last sheet is a baseline survey, the green one. And so the student needs to fill this out. It shouldn't take more than 5 minutes, and it's just about baseline symptoms today, so that if your student did get a concussion, we would know how it changes. So for the vast majority of you, you're never going to hear from us again after this. You'll fill out the baseline, and that's it. But if you did get a concussion, then the work's on Jay, and he'll seek you out and have you fill out this baseline form a couple more times over the school year, about 5 more times. So we'd love all of your guys' participation. This is really valuable. We've already have 1,700 students in the state of Wisconsin participating, and we'd love to do one more set, one more school year. And my colleague Michaela and I will be here after the meeting if you guys have any questions. We'd love for you to fill it out right now, and if not, you can give it to Jay Hansen sometime before the start of your season or in that first week. So does anyone have any questions right away? No? Okay, well, I really appreciate you guys listening to me, and good luck this year. Thanks.
If you are unable to locate Jaya during the summer, it's a challenge. He's usually out on the field or outside with our athletes. You can always drop it off in the front office, ask them to give it to me, and I can put it in his mailbox in room 132. So again, the reason you're here tonight is to learn more about our athletic code and learn more about our athletic department. I'm going to try to go through this information as thoroughly as I can, but also do it quickly, so that it is efficient for you and efficient for all of us. Many of you attended your sports meetings prior to coming to this meeting, so if you have any sport-specific questions, I would highly recommend that you talk to your coach, your head coach, or your level coach within your own program. The first thing we want to talk about, obviously, is that participation in a school sport is a privilege, and it comes with it many responsibilities. Our student athletes are very important to our school. They represent us in many ways, and we ask them to be very responsible, not only in school or on the playing surface, but also out in our community. So we just ask that as parents, you support that, have some conversations at home when talking about that, and understanding what Mr. Finstead said earlier about the pride that you have wearing a jersey from McFarland and representing our school in a positive way. This slide here kind of represents the nuts and bolts of what we need to have in prior to your child participating in a sport. So, all of our registration is done online through Infinite Campus. Many emails have gone out to all of you through Infinite Campus. It's in your mailbox. There was one today about a reminder for this meeting, and it also, prior to today's email, there were 2 other emails that told you how to register your child for the fall sport. Please make sure that you go online through Infinite Campus and register so that your child is registered prior to their sport starting. There's an MHS sports fee of $92. If you're writing a check tonight, you can hand in your check tonight with Mrs. Callhagen out at the front. Please make sure that you write the name of your child and the sport that they're going to participate in the memo line, so I know who that check is for when I input that information into Infinite Campus. All right? If you're paying online, you can do that as well, but it has to be done after August 1st. You can go to your payment portal, and there are fees, athletic fees. Choose the sport your child is participating in, and then pay the $92 sports fee. Physical forms. Physical forms are good for 2 years. They need to be dated after March 31st of 2016 in order to be good for this school year. All right? I will talk a little bit later about how you can confirm all this information to see where your sport or where your child is, where the physical date is, or where it is located, or what is the actual date of that, so that you can double check it. You're doing the fourth bullet right now. You're attending the Athletic and Activities Code meeting or viewing it online. Mr. Pennycamp is nice enough to videotape this for us so we can put it online if you were not able to attend. I do appreciate you being here, so taking the time tonight and coming here and asking questions if you have them, I do appreciate that. And obviously, all of our athletes need to meet the WIAA enrollment and residency and grade eligibility requirements. If you're new to our district and you are in your junior year, there are some rules that we have to follow through the WIAA transfer rule, so please make sure that your son or daughter comes and sees me and we can get that information taken care of. If you are new to our school as a freshman, you basically start with a clean slate. So your eligibility lies with us once you participate in a school-sponsored activity or sport. Any questions on the registration online through Infinite Campus, the payment, the physical, or the WIAA guidelines? All right. Just curiosity, how many of you have taken advantage and gone online already and registered through Infinite Campus? Please just raise your hand. Okay, wonderful. Fairly easy process. Hopefully it's all, it's kind of becoming more of a normal thing for everybody to do because we also do this in our middle school. Physical forms. So I had a handout at the front table. You don't have to take this. Sometimes doctor's office provide physical forms for you. That's fine. We do have a physical form here. They're also on our sports website, and you can download that. The picture that I'm showing you is the clearance form. And you can see that the 4 arrows are the 4 most important things on this form. Number 1, up at the very top of the form, there's a box that says cleared without restrictions. Or if there are some restrictions, the doctor will say what those restrictions are for your athlete. Signature of a licensed physician. I need to have the signature of the doctor on the form. I also need to have the date of the examination, and also, which is probably the most forgotten, is the parent signature. So please make sure that those 4 areas are filled out completely before you turn in your physical form. Sometimes the doctor's office will generate a computer form. Just double check that all those sections and all of that information is on that form. Okay? Any questions on the physical form? All right. So I just went on Infinite Campus. I registered my child. How do I know that it worked? Well, first thing I want to say about Infinite Campus is that it kind of recycles every hour. So if you did this at 9:30 tonight and you went back onto Infinite Campus at 9:45 to check it, it's not going to show you that you did it. So every hour, Infinite Campus updates. So you have to get it to the top of the hour before you can check. If you look here, I'll use my handy dandy laser. Step 1, go to the district website, click on that parent portal icon right there. It's green. It says Infinite Campus Parents. That will take you to this screen. Log in to Infinite Campus, and parents, you have to do this. The child cannot register themselves. So again, this is just confirming that you have everything done. Okay, this is not the actual registration. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So you'll go here, okay, username, password. It'll take you to this right here. Select your student. It brings you up. This is my daughter, Caitlin. She's in 8th grade. All right, so I go to this tab right here. It says athletic registration. It takes me to this screen. There I have highlighted, obviously it's not highlighted on the screen, I just did it for our cases here. Caitlin's physical date is this. Okay, it's past due because it's 2015. Any physical dated in 2015 is no good this year. So I need to get my daughter a physical before she can participate in middle school athletics. It will tell you that emergency information is not filled out, the code of conduct is not consented to, and the concussion form is not consented to. Once I have completed my registration, then for her fall sport, it'll list the sport that it was there, that she paid, and it will say yes at the emergency card, the code of conduct, and the concussion form. So hopefully by going on to your parent portal and accessing this information, that will allow you to confirm that your registration went through. Okay? So this is just a tool for parents to double check that it worked, because sometimes you click that button and you just don't know if everything went through. Any questions on that? Okay. On a side note, if you are registering, so you're going on Infinite Campus now and you're registering your child, what you want to do is, again, go to Infinite Campus, log in, this screen, go to this right here. It's your inbox. It probably has, like, depending on your number of students, you could have like 867 messages in there. All right? Click on that inbox. You'll look for the message that will say MHS Fall Sports Registration with a red exclamation point. Okay? And the folks that did that, was that easy to find and easy to locate? I see a lot of heads nodding. So once you get into that inbox of Infinite Campus, then you can go through the registration process of putting in that information of student number, name, consenting to our athletic code, consenting to the concussion information, emergency contact, all of that stuff. It walks you right through it. Should not be a problem. All right? Okay. If you are a family that does not have health insurance, part of our athletic code is stating that you do have health insurance that will cover your child or your student athlete. So please make sure that you are covered with insurance. Also, if you are not able to afford insurance, we, the school, can provide you a low-cost health insurance for a season, a school year, whatever works best for your family. Just, again, contact me. I'll give you that information. Of course, everything now is online, but this is also another online application. So again, it's an expectation that every child is covered through health insurance, whether you as a family have it or we provide it as a school. Okay, athletic code. So we'll go through this as a group. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Basically, our athletic code, which is, again, it's a link on our sports website. It is also a link in the registration process that you can go through it and look at it. We go over it every year as an administrative team. Also, 2 years ago, we went over it with school board members, coaches, kids, a bunch of different people. So we do look at this every year to make sure that we are staying up to date on our policies and our procedures. We have two types of policies in our athletic code. We'll talk about the substance policy first. This deals with use or possession of alcohol, tobacco, or illegal drugs. If a student is suspended for a substance policy, the first offense is 20%, the second is 40%, and everything after that is 50% of the scheduled season. So we take the number of games that are scheduled in the regular season, we multiply that by the percentage, and that comes up with the athletic code suspension. We will round up if it is a 2.5. So 0.5 and higher would round up to the next game. Talking about the assessment, we have different types of assessment policies. For a first violation, you can do a face-to-face free assessment through UW Health, or you can do an online option through Third Millennium Classrooms. Either type of assessment will qualify for the first offense. Second offense and third offense or violations, we would ask for a face-to-face counseling service through UW Health so that we're trying to get this athlete help in this area, because obviously if it's reoccurring, we have a little bit of an issue there. So we want to try to make sure that we're helping out rather than just sitting them. We want to try to educate them as well. Any questions about the substance policy? Our assessment, like I said, is through UW Health. That is our free option. You would call, set up an appointment. The Third Millennium, the student athlete would choose that option and then come into my office, and I would give them information on how to access that online class. We also have what's called a personal conduct policy. Within that personal conduct policy, there's major and minor violations. You see a list of personal conduct violations there, and we also know that our administration, Mr. Finstead, Mr. Piavanetti, Mrs. Nichols, myself, we will obviously meet as a group and discuss whether we feel that the personal conduct policy was major or minor in its nature. If it's a major violation, then obviously it parallels the substance policy violations or suspensions of 20, 40, and 50%. A minor violation is recommended 10, 20, or 50. And again, it could vary depending on the nature of the offense, but please also understand that the WIAA does mandate that a suspension has to be at least one contest. Last year, we put something new in our athletic code called a self-reporting clause. So, for example, excuse me, I go out, let's say I'm a sophomore in high school. I go to a drinking party, and it gets busted. And I'm given a drinking ticket because they were breathalyzing me, and I blew positive. So all of a sudden, I get a ticket. My parents are notified. I go home. Obviously, there's consequences at home or conversations at home. But if I self-report to one of the administrators, or Mr. Ackley, myself, okay, in this case, then I can get a reduction of 50% of my penalty. Please understand this is a one-time deal. I can't do the same thing the following weekend and then self-report again. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. What we're trying to do with this is we're trying to, again, praise kids for making the right decision. You made a mistake. Many of us in this room have made mistakes in our lives. If you are honest about it and you tell the right people and you talk to the right people and you report yourself, then we want to show you that we appreciate that and that we're seeing that you're learning. So we will then reduce the penalty by 50%. That was something new in our athletic code last school year. Last bullet, once the school administration becomes aware of the violation, obviously the self-reporting clause is in no longer effect because we've already found out you didn't take it upon yourself to self-report. We've now approached you about it. Okay? Any questions? We do have on that first bullet something that I should note, that we would appreciate that to be done within 24 hours. Many of you have all of my information or have our assistant principal's information or principal's information to contact us if something would occur. We also put in last year something called the honesty clause. If all of a sudden I'm called down to the office and Mrs. Nichols is talking to me about a personal conduct violation and I just say, you know what, you're right, I made a mistake. It's totally my fault. I'm sorry. I'm being very honest with you and forthcoming with information. There's a possibility that you may have a reduction in your suspension. And that's something that Mrs. Nichols and the other administrators would make a decision on. We obviously expect that honesty and integrity is part of the process. We are not police officers. We're not detectives. I don't get paid to, interrogate kids. But when issues come up and problems arise or suspensions occur or violations occur, somebody has to figure it out. And that's the job of the administrative team and myself and the school to make sure that we're upholding this code of conduct that we have. But we also want parents and kids to know that we are wanting and willing to, reward our athletes for being honest and making the right decision after making a mistake. Any questions about the self-reporting or honesty clause or the substance policy or personal conduct policy in our athletic code? Okay. Academic eligibility is something we deal with throughout the season, or throughout the school year, I should say. We have a grading period after, we don't really run by quarters anymore, but about a 12-week grading period would be where I would pull grades, and that determines eligibility. Obviously, the end of the first semester determines eligibility. The second semester, halfway through, at about 12 weeks, would determine eligibility there. And then the fourth quarter determines eligibility, or the second semester. So with that being said, that's where the second semester grades determine fall sports eligibility. The WIA rule is that if you have a failing grade or below a 1.75, you are ineligible academically for 21 consecutive calendar days from the first date of scheduled competition in your sport. In our athletic code, there's a table that shows first date of competition, eligibility date. if that happened to your child, okay, or your student athlete, at the end of our second semester last school year, you were sent home a note. They can take summer school to recover that grade, if it was a failing grade, to get a passing grade, or if they passed all their classes but didn't do very well and only had maybe a 1.72, then they can take other classes to increase that grade point average above the 1.75 minimum requirement. Okay? That's all done through the guidance office, but just understand that we pull grades 4 times throughout the year that determine the athletic eligibility for our student athletes. Attendance. Please make sure that your student athlete is in school as often as possible. We want our athletes in our classrooms, in our hallways, and in our school. We understand that there's appointments that need to be made, doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, things that can't always be scheduled outside of the school day, but we would really appreciate you doing your best to schedule outside of the school day or before the school day starts. If you have a doctor's appointment or an orthodontist appointment that you attended at 9:45, please make sure the parent calls into the office to excuse the child and then bring a note back showing us that that's where you were. If you forgot to call it in, please bring the note so that we know. Our coaches get a list of kids at the end of the school day through Infinite Campus of any unexcused absences. If they were not in school all day and they were supposed to be, then they should not be practicing or competing. But please understand that call it in, bring a note, and we'll do the best that we can to figure it out. Okay? Communication with coaches. We want to make sure that we encourage athletes to communicate with the coach with any concerns. So we have a communication protocol with our coaches. Mr. Finstead gave a great example of that, about the athlete taking the concern to the coach, letting them work through that as a young person, because that's going to benefit them down the road. Some helpful hints. I would not address a coach right after a contest about playing time. That's probably not the best time to do that. Emotions are high, not only for you and your child, but also the coach. Give yourself a little time to cool off, think about it. Give the coach a little time to cool off and think about it, and then have the athlete contact the coach first and foremost. I'll show you where it's located, but we do have parent resources on our website so that you can look at some things as parents, read through them, just some helpful documents to help you enjoy the sport experience in high school. So this is our district communication policy. Again, the very first rectangle that you see, I know it's not very easy to read on your end, but it says if there's a team or an individual concern, start here. Athlete, speak with coach. Is the concern resolved? Yes, more than often it's going to be. If it's not, you can bring me as the athletic director in, but please understand, I'm not at the practices. I'm not at all the games. I'm not able to talk to you about the issues you have like the coach could. I can listen, and you can always call me, but please understand, the first question I'm going to ask you is, have you spoken with your coach? Or has your child spoken with their coach? Because that's very, very important. Transportation. Again, this kind of goes back to the attendance policy. We expect that all of our athletes will ride on our school buses to competitions and back. That's important for us because that's the most safe way to get them to the competitions and back to school. I also understand that things happen. Emergencies could come up. Maybe you're leaving for a weekend and it's a lot easier to leave from where you are rather than come back here and then go. We just ask that you fill out the proper paperwork for that. There is a parent transportation slip that is on our school district website, on our sports website. There's 2 of them on one page, so you can print it off, cut it in half. Please try to give that to the coach a day in advance would be great. We understand that it might just happen that night, so you want to print it off, take it, and give it to that coach. And also the coach should have those on file with them as well if something happens. We would prefer that kids ride home on buses. And remember, if you are transporting your child, you can only transport your child. You can't transport any other children. With liability issues as a district, we want to keep ourselves safe as well as you as parents safe. Any questions about transportation? All right. Early release, we have some fall sports and other spring sports and sometimes even winter sports where our student athletes will be released from school early. Please understand that you have to be passing all your classes in order to be early released. So we have this mostly in the spring, but there are some times in the fall that this will occur. So student athletes in the room, if you are on a sport where you have some early releases, please make sure that you are staying up on your coursework, because if you're not and you're failing, the teacher could say, I'm sorry, you have to stay back. And then therefore you would not be able to compete that night. Concussion information, you heard from UW Health Sports Medicine as well as Jay Hansen, our athletic trainer. We do quite a bit to keep our student athletes safe in the area of concussions. Not only are we part of a study, we have a full-time athletic trainer that is at all of our home events. He travels with some of our teams as well. We're very lucky to have Jay here in our community as not only an athletic trainer, but also a community member. So please take advantage of him. Please understand that state law does mandate that we have a medical professional clear your child for resuming play. It can't be you that says, yeah, he's fine, let him play. It has to be a medical professional. And please understand that that's state law. Through your registration on Infinite Campus that we talked about earlier, you will be consenting to all of the concussion rules, signs and symptoms, and protocol as a parent. All of our coaches have to do the same thing as coaches. They have to fill out a form about concussion signs and symptoms and be trained in that area as well. One thing we have done in the past, but we are no longer going to do this year, is impact testing. We felt that talking with Jay and myself, we're finding that not a lot of our physicians are using that as readmitting kids or athletes back into participation. The cost was going up, and the doctors weren't necessarily using it as much as they used to. If you want your child to have an impact test or a baseline test, you can definitely contact your provider, and you can get that taken care of. Is that correct, Jay? Okay. So we have many other options for safety when it comes to brain safety and concussions. And it's not just happening in football or soccer. Concussions are becoming more and more in other sports as well. So please be aware of those signs and symptoms as a parent. And please take advantage of Jay if you start to feel that your student athlete has suffered a concussion. Anything to add on that, Jay? Are we pretty good? Okay, Jay will be around afterwards to ask questions if you have any. So we talk about behavior. We talk about what student sections should look like, how parents should act, how our kids should act. And bottom line is, I just ask that you look over some of the handouts that I provide. Enjoy the experience. I understand that you're not going to agree with every single call an official makes. Okay, I get that. But I also would expect that as an adult, we act like adults. And we model the behavior we want for our kids. And the same as coaches. And we talked about that today in our coaches meeting, that we want to model proper behavior. In all the years that I've been coaching different sports and different athletics, I've never seen an official change a call because a mom or a dad is angry about it. It usually doesn't happen. In fact, it's probably more of a detriment to our team and our community than it is a positive. So I get it. I'm pretty intense. There's times I don't always like every call a football official makes on our football field, or when I'm watching a basketball game that a basketball official makes. But by arguing or being angry about it and yelling something out in the stands, whether I'm a student or a parent, It's not benefiting anybody. Our coaches rank all of our varsity officials. We go on the WI website and we rank them. If the official doesn't do a good job, then we rank that. And the WIA looks at that. So please understand that as coaches, we're always evaluating our officials. And not every official is going to make the right call. And they're human too. And so I just ask that we have some understanding and some patience as adults in stands and at our athletic events. And as athletes and as spectators, that we're being appropriate in our student section. We went to a Rock Valley Conference, that's what RVC stands for. We went to the Rock Valley Conference Sportsmanship Summit last year. And I have a quick little 3-minute video that is a bunch of little different interviews from athletes around our conference that I thought I'd share with you tonight. So I just ask that we kind of go through this and just listen to what the kids have to say about sportsmanship as a student but athlete, also as an adult.
I think it means just like respecting your opponent, even though like you want to beat them, just like win or lose, just show respect to them and not be angry or be too excited and showboat or anything.
Sportsmanship means to me is to be a leader, and no matter if you win or lose, you have good sportsmanship to your opponent and to your teammates and to the fans.
A positive student section does not discourage the other team. It definitely makes sure that their team is felt like they have a home field advantage or a home court advantage, but it does not drag down the energy of the game. It keeps energy high.
You know, it's all about like, you know, having the right energy during the game. So positive student section would really, they get the excitement going. Like, for instance, in basketball, you hit a three late in the game, and it's like everybody's loud. You get the excitement going, the momentum's on your side, and you know, it's all about the momentum. Get on a roll.
I think that a positive adult section when I'm playing helps motivate our team and our players, and it creates a really fun atmosphere to play in, and it helps us focus, which is really good.
If we have positive parents, it helps us not only as their kids, but like as players too.
It takes my mind out of the game, and it makes me think more of the student section than it does the game.
It puts a negative energy out on the field. It makes it so you can't focus as well. You're trying to see what everyone in the student section is doing, because if they're angry, then they're taking the attention away from the field and putting it on themselves.
It's pretty embarrassing. It makes me not feel too proud to be out there, but it shines a poor light on our school's athletics.
When the adult fans are negative, I find it very awkward, especially being down on the court right next to everyone, because you can kind of hear what the officials and players say underneath their breath, and sometimes you just have to take a second and take it in, and you're like, okay, that wasn't needed, but it's okay.
I want just support, respect, and then for them to come out and enjoy the game.
Just overall support no matter what. If they're there behind you when you're down and when you're up, and it's all the same, they're always cheering, they're always telling you you got this, it just keeps you up, and it makes it a lot easier to win and to perform at your best.
All right, so just a message that we had from a variety of different kids in our Rock Valley Conference. That was last March. We went down to University of Wisconsin Whitewater with about 10 of our kids, they got in small groups. We had a really great leadership speaker by the name of Craig Hillier. He does a ton of writing and a ton of speaking all around the country when it comes to high school athletics. So I just wanted to share that with you because I think that message is probably the most important, coming from the athletes. Not coming from me, but coming from the kids, the ones that are the participants and the ones that we're there to support. So I just appreciate you taking a listen to that. Let's see here. We talk about club versus high school sports. This is becoming more of an issue within our school sports. We are starting to see sports get year-round now, whether it be soccer or basketball, hockey, volleyball, swimming, it doesn't matter. Many of our sports are going year-round and overlapping our school sports. If that is your case with your athlete, I just ask that you have a conversation with your in-season high school coach and make sure that your lines of communication are open so that the coach of the high school in-season sport is made aware of maybe a practice that you're going to be attending because of a club sport. It is of my opinion, and you can take this or leave it, that the in-school or the in-season high school sport takes the priority. That's the in-season sport. So please talk with the coach. Make sure that you have open lines of communication so that everybody is on the same page. There could be some consequences for going to a club activity rather than a school sport. That's something you want to discuss with your coach. The last bullet, please understand that the WIAA last year did pass a bylaw, or a new amendment, I should say, that it is allowing athletes to compete in not more than 2 non-school competition with school approval during each regular sports season. So I'll take girls golf for an example. Let's say we have a high-level girls golfer, and they have matches in season with our school-affiliated sport. If that talented young lady would go and play in a tournament on a weekend, that is okay to do 2 times. Before last year, they could not do that because it was in season of that same sport. Now, please understand that if this girls golfer is a great girls basketball player and she goes and plays in an AAU tournament, that's not the same situation. That's an out-of-season sport. So just understand that it only deals with the same sport season. But it does need to be school approved, and that means that I need to be made aware of it and that we can go through the paperwork that needs to be filled out and taken care of. Okay? Student Athletic Pass. So please understand that this is something that you can purchase through your registration. It's a $20 cost. This is the student ID that it comes on. It's underneath there. It says Athletic Pass, and the kids get into their games for free. Please be respectful, and I'm talking to my student athletes in the room. Please be respectful of our ticket takers. Please have your ID with you. Don't come up to Mrs. Beam or Mrs. Young or one of our other ladies that help us out on those evenings and say, oh, you know, I'm sorry, it's at home, but I have it, I promise. Please have it on you, or you may not get in. You will not get in. You'll have to go back to your car or get it. If you lose your ID, you can get it reprinted, okay, and it'll have it on there. We do have some competitions, volleyball, football, that are going to be occurring prior to the start of our school year. With some of our sports starting earlier this year, we have competitions or contests where admission would be charged prior to the student getting their student ID. That will cause a little bit of an issue, so just be patient with us. I'll try to get lists to my ticket takers so it shows that they purchased an ID or an athletic pass. Yes? I would prefer it's with them, but yes, it would be acceptable. Because I know kids don't really carry wallets anymore or purses, but they always have their phone, usually right in front of their face. So, but yes, that would be acceptable. Thank you, Mr. East, for that question. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for bearing with me. Talking about registration. So again, if we go to our school district website, okay, and we go up here to this green Infinite Campus for Parents, and we click on that. And then we log in, and we use our password. In the middle of that area, if you have not registered yet for a fall sport, there's an inbox. Click on the inbox, find the red exclamation point, and then move forward through that process. That's how we register online. Okay. If you want information about your child's sport through the WIAA, you can access this through the WIAA website, and you can go to any sport that you would like, and you can go ahead and let's say you want to go to boys soccer. And you can click on there, and you can find the tournament assignments. You can find other information within the WIAA website. Just another helpful hint for you, or website for you. My contact information is right there. Mr. Finstead, you met earlier. Mrs. Nichols, one of our assistant principals, is right down here. Many of you know her as a community member. And Mr. Piavanetti is one of our assistant principals as well, and he could not be here tonight. And that is all I have. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Also, Mrs. Callhagen is in the food court that you can hand papers, the physical form, or checks to her. Thank you for coming tonight.